What is up, YouTube? Corey here with your daily dose of wisdom. I'm going to be talking about the self today. How do I uphold the self? And what created the self? Did I create the self, or did this ego that resides in my intellectual mind create the self? We go about our daily life putting on a mask, this character, right? You talk to your boss, you put on a different mask than when you talk to your mother, or your friends, or your girlfriend. You're just playing a character all the time. You only see pure awareness through silence. Silence is where you analyze, you think. The mind comes out to play. When you're talking all the time, when you're in character, you're reacting. You're reacting constantly rather than reflecting. You don't get to see yourself in its truest form. And with this world of distractions, we don't even know who we are. We're scrolling through our phone, playing video games, watching television shows, forgetting about who am I? Who am I? Ask yourself that question. And what labels come when you ask yourself that question? Who am I? Right? I ask myself that question. I say, oh, I'm a surfer. I'm a guitarist. I'm a skier. I'm a meditator. These labels I assign to myself. These labels ultimately bring me suffering. Your upholding of the self brings you suffering. Now, when other people uphold yourself, you feel that little bit of gratification. When I'm playing guitar, somebody says, oh, you're pretty good. Thank you. I get a little boost, right? A little high. But then somebody says, oh, you kind of suck. Brings you down a little bit. Don't let your emotional state be dependent on these attachments and labels you put on yourself. You aren't those labels. Those are separate from you. But we become mistaken and caught up in this ego that tells us we are those things. When you say and you associate yourself with different emotional states, I am happy, I am sad, I am angry. You ultimately become those things. When you put the I am statement before something, you become it. But then when something comes along and breaks down what you have told yourself you are, what you have became, is what causes your own suffering. So ultimately, we cause our own suffering. Because of these masks, these characters that we play, right? We feel as if we're at mercy of the world, victims of the world. But we're only victims of our own mind. The world doesn't act on us. We simply experience the world. The world is objective. We're perceiving the world. So it's an interesting mind game to play when you start putting awareness in your attachments, putting awareness in your desires and your labels on yourself. Because you understand you are not those things. They are an attribute of what has made up this self-image you have created. But the self-image isn't you. The self-image is ever changing. Right? The only constant in this universe is change. So we understand that we are constantly changing. We are constantly evolving. Our perception flips. That's what spiritual awakening is breaking down these structures that have been put in, socialized into us. Life gets a little bit more playful, less serious, when you start being a little less rigid. We're so uptight. We have this box. We put our life in this box, this rigid box of this is how it's supposed to be, this is how it is. And we don't realize, we don't let it blossom. We don't let it grow. It's like putting a goldfish in a tiny little tank. Then you put it in a pond in the ocean and it gets huge. We don't allow ourselves to grow. And especially being distracted in this modern world, we don't even have time to reflect, react, think about ourselves, think deeply in contemplation. Because how often do you truly get to sit and think? Sit and contemplate from a place of clarity. Right? Clarity is important. We don't see that. We see bias in our life. Through all these ideas that we've upholded all of our life, the self, the ego, creates these biases that we buy into. We buy into the bias. I've been this way all my life, so that's how I am. That's why it's hard for people to change, is because these labels that they put on themselves. Somebody says, I am depressed. You just became it, right? You say, I am a happy person. You just became it. You are a happy person, right? If you were constantly eager and ready to live each day and experience the day through a place of purity, innocence, awareness, the game changes. It's not so serious, it's playful, right? The Tao. Lao Tzu talks about the Tao and the Tao Te Ching, right? The indescribable force of the universe, the flow, right? When you start to get in tune with this, the world begins to change. Like I said, it gets a whole lot more playful. We understand that this self is just an idea that we've created. Just go with the flow. Understand that I am, because you are the Tao. You are everything, but you are nothing at the same time. Right? It's comforting knowing how insignificant you are in the universe, at least for me. I say, oh my goodness, there's 39 trillion microbes in my gut, and there's billions and billions of atoms that make up my body. And we're just one planet out of billions in this galaxy. And we're only one galaxy out of billions in this universe. And here I am, making a YouTube video. Look at me go. Right? That's the self coming out and saying, oh, look at me. Right? We either say, oh, go me, or poor old me. Poor me has to wake up and go to work today. Lucky me gets to wake up and go surfing, go to the beach today. Right? It's these labels and attachments our self has that causes our suffering, that causes this wave of emotional states we experience, from bliss and joy down to fear and guilt. You don't want to be down here. You want to be up here. So how do I stay there? How do I stay high? It's about presence. It's about leaving that self behind. It's about not buying into that fucking ego. The ego is keeping you down here. It's saying, why don't we stay in yesterday a little bit longer? Or how about we go to tomorrow? What? I'm here right now. I'm here right now. That's what you got to say. Get in the state of unwavering presence. Leave the ego behind, that self that you've created, right? And start to build the new self, the one that's constantly changing and evolving and blossoming. That's my message for you today, is blossom. Blossom. Use this spiritual awakening, this indescribable force of the universe. Become it. Become the Tao. I write in my journal every day, I am, I am. Why do I say that? Because I am. It's a very simple statement. Rather than saying I am this or I am that, I just am. It doesn't matter. What am I? I don't know. I am. So let's I am our way to the 5.